Hello there. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm Ryan in Singapore. Welcome to our mindfulness practice. Hi, Jean. Hi, Rachel. Hi, Patricia. Hi, Florence. Welcome. Great to have you here. It's good to see new faces always. Hi, Emma. I'm just gonna go ahead and throw my follow card up here. Hi, Suleiman. How's it going? Hello, Edelyn. Hello, Deb in Rochester, New York. Hello, Sarah. I like your, what is that? Is that fruit? Is it like a fruit bowl? Looks like cranberries and watermelon or melon balls or something. Hello, Sybil. So I hope you guys are doing okay. Gosh, I'm still kind of recovering from. I did 2 nights of not too much sleep in a row. What can I see? I can see your. I can see your profile pictures, and that's it. But sometimes I see faces. Sometimes I see fruit tarts made with green. Gosh, I don't even know. I don't even know what kind of fruit this is. Green gages and mirabelles. Thanks, Sarah, for sharing that. So yeah, I'm like green and red plums. Thanks. It looks really nice. Thanks. Um, yeah, gosh, I haven't had like yesterday. Yeah, okay. So today's topic is about how we manage relapse, and it's something that is, we've linked it to the 5 pillars of mental health, which are, meditating often, eating well, sleeping enough, exercising often, and hydrating. And that's something that I'm usually really disciplined about my sleep, but these days it's been there's been the Formula One event was here in Singapore just a few days ago, and my wife had events to do with some of her clients, so that part of what I was doing was supporting her. Part of what I was doing as well was just enjoying the event. And I was going to bed quite late every night, and then still waking up early in the morning to take care of my kids, and then just to a person like me who's like relatively disciplined about my bedtime and about what time I wake up. It was and it still is. I mean I got enough sleep last night, but wow, I still feel like I'm recovering from that. And this is a good moment to talk about meeting yourself where you are. And that's what I had to do yesterday. Yesterday I just kind of went, well, I'm not in in the same mind state that I usually am, and to expect myself to be productive and energetic, is it possible to set the bar a little bit lower for myself, to do things that are more about taking care of myself, and not worrying so much about what it is that I'm getting accomplished. I think that can be an easy hang up, is getting stuck on what it is that we think we must do, and again, meeting yourself where you are. And hey, I like Elton John has stopped touring. I got to see Elton John up close. We kind of pushed our way to the front, me and a couple friends, and that was definitely worthwhile. And that was definitely worth having a day of kind of, a write-off day where I didn't give myself too much pressure to do much. So today I'm back in action. I'll be working on the things that I want to work on, and looking forward to things. And as Gene says, it's the process, not the product. Um, and that is a really interesting way to look at things too. Is can I, and that's what the present moment. That's what present moment awareness is about. It's about noticing what's going on here and now, and doing the best with the tools that you're given, and not worrying about what the end result is going to be or what is happening in the future. So being more engaged in the present moment and in the process. Florence says, went to spend the week with my family, and my sibling is still living there and was stressful for me. I'm autistic with ADHD and I get social anxiety. Thanks for sharing, Florence. And Jean says, society put the concept of productivity on us. Right. That's why it's why caffeine is the most consumed psychoactive substance on the planet, is because that's what makes us the most productive, right? So let's go ahead and start rolling into today's topic. I'll say hi, Tracy in Florida. And we'll go ahead and get into today's topic, which is about building resilience to relapse. So we'll talk a little bit about relapse shortly. The last session that we talked through was celebrating progress. And so this is, I'm kind of flipping back between what success looks like and what slipping up looks like, because both of these are important to see and to acknowledge in our process of letting go of the habits that aren't serving us anymore, or letting go of the habits that we know are harmful for us. So, and let's talk today a little bit about what makes a habit. Why are we doing the same thing over and over again when we know it may be harmful for us? So celebrating progress is learning to take notice, to appreciate growth, to appreciate the effort that we've put forward, to see with mindful awareness just how far we've come, to see that we are not today in the same spot that we were months ago. And even if it looks like it, right? Even if and I think that's one of the key things about celebrating progress, is that it's easy to, and tying this in with relapse, it's easy to go, oh, I'm back where I started. I haven't made the progress that I wish that I had made. And this is, and mindfulness is, the ability to tune in to the fact that we are not at the exact same spot that we were months ago. That if nothing else, our mindset has changed over time. We are never, in the same two breaths, the exact same person that we were. We now are different than what we were 5 seconds ago. We now are different from what we were an hour ago. We now are different from what we were last week. We are constantly going through this process of change. And, this is what impermanence is about, is that there is a kind of clinging to the past, clinging to the way things were. But in truth, this version of me that sits here right now is fresh, and it's new, and it's not something that is the same as the thing that existed a while ago. I mean, that is something that we as human beings really want to do, is we have this thread that through our memories, connects the version of me that's here right now with all of the past versions of me. And that can make it harder to engage with what's present here in this moment. And this, by the way, is at the heart of what is beginner's mind. And I just post my course up here. Engaging this moment as it is, as a fresh new chance, a fresh new beginning. And as we do our meditation practice, I mean, this is what meditation practice is about, is seeing that each moment is a chance to begin again. The beginning is always now, right? Is it possible to let go of what was in the past, even a few minutes ago, even 1 minute ago, even 30 seconds ago? This. And I think that's how we get caught up on this idea of relapse, is that, that past still feels present right now, and that we can get caught up inside of that and feel like we're stuck in that setback in the past. And this really is what resilience to relapse is about. Recognize that setbacks are inevitable. They are a part of the growth process. And, when we look at them as failures and we give ourselves a hard time and we approach ourselves with harshness and without compassion, and by the way, that's what underlies denial. Why does denial happen? Is because it can be so hard to look at that setback with fresh eyes and with honesty because of the underlying self-harshness that we may tend to have. So, this is why self-compassion, and it's so interesting too, in these last month and a half, as we've been going through this topic of habits, just how often the topic of self-compassion has come up. And I think that's partially one of the reasons, why I've just released the new self-compassion track, is because it's just so important to have self-compassion, to give ourselves this ability to spring back when we've had our setback. So setbacks are an inevitable part of the change process. The goal isn't to stop relapse from happening. And this may sound puzzling. It's going to happen because that's the pattern that's in the mind. That's the pattern that's been here with us for years. And for us to expect it to disappear when this is the most efficient way for the brain to operate, right? Habits exist not because our brain wants us to fail, because this is what's efficient. This is the thing that we've been doing. This piece of meat between our ears takes up a significant portion of the energy that we consume every day. So, not just the physical effort that we put forth, the mental effort. And so our brain seeks that efficiency, and that's how habits form. It's so that we don't have to think through and analyze every single thing we do throughout the day. So that there's these patterns of efficiency, and those patterns are extremely efficient, and they are difficult for us to change for a reason, because this organ between our ears desires that efficiency. And it's helpful for us. It's helpful for our ancestors. It's what has allowed us to be the dominant species on the planet, is this piece of meat between our ears. This is what sets us apart. And so these processes maybe keeping that in the context, understanding that it's not something to resist. It's not something to push back against so hard. It's something that we can be welcoming of and to be loving towards, because our brains and our mental processes is what allowed our ancestors to survive. And so, it's just something that's old, something that's been with us for a while, and something that we need to work with. So relapse is falling back into an old pattern. And it's possible and easy for us to cast judgment on ourselves, to say, this is a moral failure, right? And I think that also is something that is a barrier for us to fully embrace what it is that's happening, because we may see it as a moral failure. I'm a bad person because this happened. Can be a really, really common thread that we see. And so it's not just the signal that this mental groove is still strong. It can be something that we judge ourselves harshly about. And so the deeper the habit is, the longer we've been doing something, the more often we'll revisit it, and the harder it's going to be to let it go. And Suleiman had said, my lifelong battle with sugar addiction and learning to be gentle with myself. Thanks for sharing. And Jean says, our brains want to take a shortcut for sure. And that's what makes this so hard to change. And that's why creating new neural networks is challenging for sure. Because it's like, I want to say Walt Whitman. I'm probably getting this wrong, but it's that when you look at that path in the forest, and that path is there, you can let's say it's at your old your old residence. You see that path that you've worn over the years. I mean, you can leave. You can be gone for 10 years, for 20 years. Everything may have grown over, but that path that you walked those many years ago is likely going to still be there. There's a groove there, because it's really hard for that to disappear. That's something that takes time and takes intention. And even when we try to do something different, even when we're walking a new path and we're building a new groove somewhere else, it's, if you look back and you look to where that old groove was, you'll likely still see that it's there. So it's extremely easy to fall back into these old patterns. And mindfulness helps us to respond to relapse with awareness and to do it non-judgmentally, to see it as it is, that this is a mental pattern that's there and there's no need for me. And in fact, not only is there no need to cast judgment on myself, but it's counterproductive to cast judgment on myself. That casting judgment leads to recoiling, leads to not admitting that it's there, leads to denial. And denial is, that's the first step of the process. So can we see beyond it? Resilience helps us to replace shame and guilt and giving up with learning and renewed commitment. So we can come back. We can see that it's not the slip itself that matters, but how long we stay down. And I think mindfulness practice is interesting in that you can see this happening inside your mindfulness practice. And I think that's why I do so much awareness of breath practice in this live event, because when we are focused on the breath, we are inevitably going to wander away and we're going to find ourselves thinking about other things. And it's not a failure, that this is part of the process. And it's the recognizing that the mind has wandered, seeing what it is that caused it, and we can do this with relapse as well. What caused the relapse to happen? Is it, and quite often it's seeking comfort. Why does our mind wander? Because it's difficult to stay focused here, because there are so many things that are attracting us away from focusing on the physical sensation of breath, because it's boring, because we want to engage in other things. So can we see that and then gently guide the mind back to what it is that we're doing, focusing on the breath, or gently guide the mind back from our relapse. So say that happened, is that possible? Is it possible to admit this happened? This has already happened. There's no point in judging myself and beating myself up for it, because it's already over. And I can already start looking into the future and to see, okay, that's something that I don't want to do. What can I put in place to keep it from happening again? And to do it kindly and to not beat myself up for it. So notice the moment that we've slipped instead of staying in denial. Accept it, right? Another one of the 9 attitudes of MBSR. Acceptance. Meet that moment with honesty and compassion rather than self-attack. Remembering that setback and progress are both part of the same path. They're here to teach us. And then we can re-engage, right? I mean, this is so familiar because this is the meditation practice itself. Gently returning to the practice or to the healthy habit, just like we return to the breath. So a couple practical examples, and then we'll get into our meditation today. Mindful eating. Notice that you ate mindlessly, and maybe part of the process of eating mindlessly was overeating. So instead of being guilty, is it possible to take one mindful breath, to be in tune with the body, to be committed to being in tune with the body the next time we eat, to really notice what it feels like to be eating? What's the process of eating like? What's the pleasure that's associated with eating? The comfort that's associated with eating? And to also recognize what the feeling of satiation feels like. What's it feel like to be full? What's it feel like to be finished? Noticing these things. Procrastination, that's an example we've been using a lot. So realize that you were scrolling for 30 minutes. Is it possible to close the app, set a timer for 5 minutes, and focus on your work? Focus on what it is that you want to be doing for 5 minutes and begin again. So, be committed to that. Maybe you skipped your meditation. So instead of labeling yourself as off track, can you set a timer for 3 minutes? Set Insight timer for 3 minutes and try again. So relapse is not the opposite of progress. It is part of the process. So let's go ahead and get into our practice today. So sit comfortably. So we'll do mostly awareness of breath, but I will guide you into a little bit of visualization today, and that's to explore. Well, we'll get into it when we get into it. So let's first start by finding a comfortable posture. If you like, you can allow the eyes to close. And find a place to rest your hands. It could be on your knees or in your lap. And so notice this posture and see if you can come into stillness. And in fact, before we do that, feel free to move your head around, roll your shoulders, just welcome yourself into this practice today. Sometimes that is, what can be helpful is giving yourself a little comfort. Massage your neck, massage your shoulders. Stretch out. Get comfortable. And then see if you can arrive in stillness. And why do we choose stillness in our meditation practice? Is to see if we can let go of all voluntary physical movement. So letting go of all voluntary action allows us to rest a bit deeper and to start to see the inner workings of our minds. Start to see what happens subconsciously. So see if you can have a strong intention to focus on the present moment, focus on the physical body, and one of the most effective ways to focus on the physical body in the present is to observe the breathing. Although we've let go of all voluntary physical movement, this involuntary physical movement continues to happen. So can you feel the sensation of the belly rising and falling as you breathe? And so let that be your anchor. Holding you in the present. Rising up, inflating as you breathe in. Relaxing, falling back as you breathe out. Expansion on the inhale, contraction on the exhale. As best you can, drinking in the details of the physical sensation of breath. Perhaps with beginner's mind, noticing as if it were the very first time you noticed that you're breathing. And allowing that curiosity of what is this like to hold you here in the present. Notice the breath. And so maybe this inner commentary is showing up. So that happens. Wait, what's Ryan going to say next? When is the silent part of the meditation going to be over? What do I have to do after the meditation's done? All kinds of little comments show up from the mind without us wanting them to happen. Is it possible to notice as they bubble up? I mean, this is the process of the subconscious. So we can notice. And remember, this is not a failure. This is part of the meditation process. The mind wants to wander. It is in the nature of the mind to want to go off and think about things. So see if every time you notice the mind thinking, you can, as best you can, let go of the thought, redirect the attention to the breath. Expansion, contraction. Inhaling, exhaling. And so if the mind wanders, is there some thought, some emotion, some physical sensation that comes as you acknowledge the mind has wandered and redirect to the breath? So this part of the meditation process is to help to dial up the awareness. It's another reason why we're sitting still, so that we can be more aware of the changes in the body and the mind and the emotions. And so that's small, that's nuanced, that may be hard to notice. So if you like, you can keep focusing on the breath, keep working on this part of the meditation as much as you like. Or, if you like, you can come with me in the visualization. So all I'm going to ask you to do is to imagine a recent setback. So remember it, bring it into mind as if it were here now. Where were you? What time of day was it? Who were you with? And so what physical sensations do you notice as you bring this setback into mind? How easy is it to conjure up this memory? Is there resistance to it? Is it difficult to look at it clearly? And in fact, as you're doing this already may be too difficult for you. So if that's the case, just understanding you don't have to do this. You can step back. You can go back to the breath. Maybe it's even intense enough that you want to open your eyes, and stand up, move around. So the idea is to become familiar with those bodily sensations. And to know that this is okay. This happened. This, whatever it is that I brought to mind, is already over. And I don't have to beat myself up for it. That I can love myself exactly as I am here and now. It is okay. This is a well-worn path. This setback isn't the end. This setback is just as much of the process as whatever success on this path looks like. The fact that I have acknowledged it, that I've looked at it, and that I've done my best to come towards myself with compassion, and that I've determined to, as best I can in the future, keep at it with determination. This is already enough. And so now let's return to focusing on the breath. So maybe let's intentionally take a fewer deep breaths. So this thinking about, this visualization is a task from the past. It is no longer here. We are now focusing on the breath again. And so let's together take a deeper breath in and a deeper breath out. Again, a deeper breath in and out. One more time, breathing in and breathing out. And so letting the breath rest in its natural pace as we begin to draw our practice to its close. And I'll close practice with 3 rings of the bell. Thanks for practicing with me. Thanks for being here today for each other. How'd it go? How was the practice? What was that like? Thanks for all the hearts and the gratitude. Appreciate it. Robert Frost, thanks Cece. I mean, that it's an excellent analogy about, that well-worn path, that well-worn groove inside the mind. I mean, you can visualize your habit as that well-worn path. I mean, because it's so easy to go down than it is to take our machete and chop through all the new jungle of the new way. Thanks, Linda. Thanks, Patricia. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Lovely, as always. I'm just going to flash up my 9 Attitudes course one more time. It's just because every time I teach, it's just there. The 9 Attitudes are pretty much in every single thing that I teach. It's part of my mindfulness practice, and it shows up in pretty much every time I teach, right? Acceptance, non-judging, patience, trust. I mean, all of this stuff just shows up. Beginner's mind. I mean, we talked about a lot of this stuff specifically, explicitly today. And I'd love for you to take this course. I've put a lot of heart into it, and I've enjoyed making it, and I hope you enjoy it as much taking the course as I did making it. Thanks so much, everybody, for your gratitude. I really appreciate it. Shachi says, practicing befriending anxious feelings in my chest. Thanks so much for sharing that. And I think that wow, that's it, and that just goes to show there's once we start to befriend our emotions, we can really see them clearly for what they are and how they manifest in the body. Just start getting to know it. Like, hey, I know that feeling. That's anxiety. I know that feeling. That's anger. I know that feeling. That's disappointment. So, can you notice that and use that information as part of your self-discovery? All right. We will be back in 47 and a half hours. So same time, same bat channel as yesterday. It's integrating change into identity is the next topic. So as we close out here talking about resilience to relapse and how to deal with relapse, that's the next topic. And Cece says, yeah, I feel anxious and upset right now. And that's, again, it's this familiarization of the emotions and yourself that is that key and that foundation to understanding and learning. So thanks again, everybody, for being here. I'll see you in 48 hours or 47 and a half hours. Let's close our practice today as we do with some well wishes to ourselves and some well wishes to each other, to everybody that's here. So follow along with me if you like. May I be happy and peaceful. May everyone watching, listening, wherever you are, I wish you all happiness and peace. May all sentient life, all humans, all non-humans as well who are important in our lives, may all of us be happy and peaceful. Thanks so much, everybody. Do take care, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.